I'm Sean, the co-founder of Kerno, your local code validation engine for AI engineering. At Kerno, we're moving behavior and integration testing from CI to your machine, so you can actually automate the running and executing of tests against your real stack locally. This gives you an instant feedback loop to catch any breaking changes introduced by you or your AI, and you can fix them before you merge. Kerno is available on CLI and IDE. And the problem we're solving is that AI agents create code that might look right in isolation, but it could fail at integration. So we're working with your AI agents to, when they make a code change, we're validating things in the background, giving you that instant feedback loop. So you're not waiting for CI to run, or you're not waiting for feedback from your QA team. And how Kerno works? Well, the first thing is we actually orchestrate your full environment. We set up all your dependencies. For example, if you have a Stripe API, or if you have a Redis cache, or a Postgres database, Kerno will read your migration files and config files and actually automatically set up your real environment. And then we'll validate. So we'll create test scenarios and we'll automatically validate that against them. And we're focused on the behavior of your code and helping you understand what drift is there if you introduce a new change. And as your code evolves, Kerno keeps up as well, so you never have to worry about maintenance and test upkeep again. And finally, Kerno indexes your entire code base. So we understand your critical flows, your business logic, etc., to create high fidelity tests. So you can actually trust the test that we write and also trust the code that you write. So let's dive into a real worked example. In this example, I'm going to be using a TypeScript database, and I'm going to focus on the API that manages articles. So it creates, reads, updates, and deletes the usual. Also in this code base, we have a numerous amount of dependencies, including a Postgres database and a Redis cache. So let's dive in. So as you can see, we've detected all your files and all your endpoints, and we've already set up the workspaces. So let's start with the create article endpoint. So you can see here, here's the article endpoint. I can flick through it to make sure it's all looks okay. And I can also see that, Kerno matches all the stuff. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually creating a baseline scenario, right? So the first time we want to put a test on an endpoint, it will create a baseline which helps us understand what is the behavior of this endpoint. And in one click, it's able to read the root, the services, and the validation, and proposes 10 different scenarios in plain English. So it covers happy paths, it covers duplicate slugs, empty titles, missing bodies, missing descriptions, invalid tokens, unauthenticated access, all the obvious edge cases, plus a few that you might not have thought about. Okay. So in this one, I'm actually going to make an edit. All right. Because in each of these, you can either approve, update, or reject. So that makes sure that you have the right test scenarios that you're being tested. So I'm going to update this because we can just talk to it, and we want to cover really long titles, right? So I'm going to type in here, hit update, and Kerno will update that and give you, and we regenerate plan. And now what Kerno will do, it will update this test suite to include that we want to validate long titles. So as I scroll down here now, I can see that there's a new scenario added. And I'm happy with this. And once I'm happy with this, then I can approve, or I can just hit implement plan. Okay. So when I hit implement plan, what Kerno will do, it will actually create the test files. We create stuff in TypeScript, and it will actually start creating the test scripts and running that test against the live infrastructure. Okay, so it writes the code, tests the code, runs every scenario, and now I'm presented with a report, which is great. So I can click through the report now and see and look at all the request headers, bodies, and the headers and body, and figure out, actually, does this all make sense for me? So here's something interesting, right? The test that we've created actually accepts 500 character titles and returns a 201 created. That's probably almost not what we want from a behavior, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to add some real validation, right? So I'm going to make a code change here. Title between 5 and 100 characters. Description, I'm going to cap it at 200. Max 5 tags, lowercase, alphanumerical, and like hyphens allowed. So I'm going to like update this code validation to what you would expect when you're trying to validate this particular scenario, right? I'm going to save this. I'm going to switch to controller and code lens, and I'm going to run another validation, right? I'm going to see then if Kerno detects the new changes picked up, right? So what we're doing is we're re-indexing your code to figure out, okay, what has changed, and then we're going to update the scenarios. Okay, so it's going to run all the different scenarios again, and we notice here that we've detected 2 different scenarios. Okay, so you can see here the long title now returns a 422 instead of a 201. This is exactly what we wanted. And the missing field tests are returning a slightly different error shape, also expected since we've reconstructed the error response. Okay, so I'm going to actually approve all this, and I'm going to update the test suite. So again, what we're doing is we're updating the scenarios to reflect all the changes that we've made. And you can see here, there's all the new changes that Kerno has introduced. It proposes an updated plan, 1 new test for the long title rule, and 3 updates to absorb the new error format. So that was quite smart for Kerno. So I'm going to approve all of these because they look correct. And we're going to implement the new test suite again. So again, we're creating the test scripts, and we're running it against your infrastructure that you're running in Docker. And now it should reflect the new intended behavior. So now I can see my test runs have run. Let me just click out of that. And let me go to the new test report, and I can see we've added and updated new tests to reflect the new logic that we've introduced. And I can see now that everything is in order. So it has changed the behavior, and this is the new baseline behavior now. So anytime I make an update to this, it will diff against the new behavior. So that's it. We've gone from setting up tests, running different scenarios, changing your code, updating the baseline tests, all under 5 minutes.